Chapter 1. My Early Days. I was born in the year of 1844 in a small town called Ankober, nestled in the heart of the Shua Kingdom. They called me Salamariam at first, a name as common as the Ethiopian highlands. My father, Haile Malakot, was a noble, a man of power and influence. My mother, Ejigea, was a woman of grace and beauty, though her status was far less grand. My childhood was filled with the sights and sounds of a bustling kingdom. I remember the vibrant markets, the smell of spices and coffee, the laughter of children, and the songs of storytellers. I spent countless hours exploring the hills and valleys, climbing trees and chasing butterflies. The Shua Kingdom, though small, was a place of great beauty and rich history. It was a land of towering mountains, fertile valleys, and ancient churches. As a child, I was fascinated by the stories of our ancestors, the great kings and queens who had ruled over this land for centuries. One of my earliest memories is of my father taking me to the ancient city of Aksum. We traveled for days, crossing vast plains and winding mountain roads. When we finally arrived, I was awestruck by the towering obelisks and the magnificent ruins of ancient palaces. My father told me stories of the Aksumite Empire, a powerful kingdom that had once stretched across much of North Africa. I was also fascinated by the stories of King Lalibela, who had carved 11 magnificent churches out of solid rock. I dreamed of visiting Lalibela one day and seeing these wonders with my own eyes. In addition to history, I was also interested in learning about the natural world. I spent many hours observing the birds and animals that lived in the forests and fields around Ankober. I was particularly fascinated by the hyenas, which were often seen scavenging for food. My mother taught me the importance of respect for all living things. She taught me to appreciate the beauty of nature and to treat all creatures with kindness. I learned to identify different plants and herbs, and I was often sent to gather medicinal plants for the local healer. As I grew older, I began to take an interest in politics and warfare. My father would often discuss these matters with his friends and advisors, and I would listen intently, trying to absorb as much information as I could. I was particularly impressed by the stories of the great Ethiopian warriors who had fought against invaders and defended their homeland. One of the most important lessons I learned from my father was the importance of leadership. He taught me that a good leader must be strong, wise, and just. He also taught me the importance of loyalty and courage. My mother, on the other hand, taught me the importance of compassion and empathy. She taught me to treat others with kindness and respect, regardless of their social status. She also taught me the importance of education and learning. As a young boy, I was fortunate to have such wonderful parents. They instilled in me a love of learning, a respect for tradition, and a desire to serve my country. These values would guide me throughout my life as I strove to make Ethiopia a great nation. Chapter 2. A Captive Life. The year was 1855. The Shua Kingdom, once a proud and independent nation, was under threat. Emperor Tuadros II, a powerful ruler from the north, had his eyes set on expanding his empire. He saw Shua as a prize to be conquered. My father, a valiant warrior, fought bravely against the attacking forces. However, the Shiwan army was no match for the well-equipped and disciplined troops of Tuadros II. The Shiwan forces were defeated, and my father was captured. I, along with many other nobles and commoners, was taken captive. We were marched for days, enduring hunger, thirst, and the harsh elements. The journey was arduous, and many did not survive. When we finally arrived at the emperor's fortress, we were imprisoned. The fortress was a grim place, a symbol of Tawadros II's absolute power. We were confined to small, dark cells, and our movements were restricted. Life as a prisoner was harsh. We were fed meager rations of bread and water. The guards were brutal, often beating us for the slightest infraction. The conditions were unsanitary, and disease was rampant. Many of my fellow prisoners succumbed to illness and malnutrition. Despite the hardships, I refused to give up hope. I knew that I had to survive, not only for myself, but also for my people. I spent my days studying, reading, and meditating. I learned to find solace in books and in the quiet moments of reflection. I also learned to adapt to the harsh conditions of prison life. I developed a resilience that would serve me well in the years to come. I learned to endure pain, to overcome fear, and to find strength in adversity. One of the most difficult challenges I faced was the isolation. I was cut off from my family and friends, and I had no way of knowing what had become of them. I often wondered if I would ever see them again. However, I was not alone. There were other prisoners who, like me, were determined to survive. We formed bonds of friendship and support, sharing our hopes and fears. We helped each other through the darkest times. One of my closest friends was a young man named Gaber. He was a skilled craftsman, and he often made small gifts for the other prisoners. He was also a talented storyteller, and he would often entertain us with tales of his travels and adventures. Gaber's stories helped to lift our spirits and to take our minds off our troubles. They reminded us of the beauty of the world outside the prison walls, and they gave us hope for the future. As the years passed, I grew older and wiser. I learned to appreciate the simple things in life, such as a warm meal, a clear sky, and the sound of birdsong. I also learned to appreciate the importance of human connection. The time I spent in prison was a challenging experience, but it was also a formative one. It taught me the true meaning of resilience, hope, and friendship. These lessons would serve me well in the years to come, as I fought to liberate my people and restore the glory of the Shua Kingdom. Chapter 3. A Fateful Escape. The year was 1865. 10 long years had passed since I had been imprisoned by Emperor Tawadros II. During this time, I had endured countless hardships, but I had never lost hope. I knew that one day I would escape and return to Shua to reclaim my birthright. The opportunity came sooner than I had expected. Emperor Tawadros II was facing a rebellion in the north, and his attention was diverted. The guards at the fortress were less vigilant, and the security was lax. I seized the moment. With the help of a few loyal followers, I devised a daring escape plan. We waited for the perfect moment, and when the guards were distracted, we made our move. We scaled the fortress walls, avoiding the watchful eyes of the sentries. Once outside the fortress, we made our way through the rugged terrain, avoiding the patrols of the emperor's soldiers. The journey was perilous, but we were determined to reach Shua. We traveled day and night, often going without food or water. As we drew closer to Shua, we encountered increasing resistance from the emperor's forces. We were forced to fight our way through several skirmishes, but we emerged victorious. The news of our escape spread throughout the land, inspiring hope among the people of Shua. When we finally reached Shua, we were greeted as heroes. The people were eager to see their rightful ruler return. I was crowned king of Shua, and I immediately set about restoring order and stability to the kingdom. One of my first tasks was to rebuild the Shiwan army. I recruited young and talented soldiers, and I trained them rigorously. I also sought to modernize the army, equipping it with the latest weapons and tactics. I also focused on diplomacy. I forged alliances with neighboring kingdoms, seeking to strengthen Shua's position in the region. I also established diplomatic relations with foreign powers, particularly Britain and France. But the greatest challenge I faced was the threat from Emperor Tawadros II. He was determined to crush the rebellion in Shua and capture me. He sent his armies to invade Shua, but they were met with fierce resistance from the Shiwan forces. The war between Shua and the empire was long and bloody. Both sides suffered heavy losses. However, the Shiwan army under my leadership proved to be a formidable force. We fought with courage and determination, and we inflicted heavy defeats on the emperor's troops. Eventually, Tawadros II was defeated by British troops. The British intervention was triggered by the imprisonment of several European diplomats, including a British consul. The British Expeditionary Force, led by General Robert Napier, marched to the emperor's fortress at Magdala. After a series of battles, the British forces captured Magdala. Tawadros II, realizing that his defeat was imminent, committed suicide. His death marked the end of the empire and the rise of a new era. I had returned to Shua, not just as a king, but as a liberator. I had freed my people from the tyranny of a cruel ruler, and I had restored hope to Shua nation. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but I was determined to build a strong and prosperous Shua. Chapter 4. A United Ethiopia. With the defeat of Emperor Tawadros II, Ethiopia entered a period of uncertainty. Various warlords vied for power, and the country was fragmented. I, as king of Shua, saw an opportunity to unite the nation. I embarked on a campaign to unify the different regions of Ethiopia. I formed alliances with other powerful leaders, and I used diplomacy and military force to expand my territory. I faced numerous challenges, including resistance from local warlords and the threat of foreign intervention. One of the most significant challenges I faced was a growing threat of European colonialism. The European powers, particularly Italy, had designs on Ethiopia's rich resources and strategic location. They sought to colonize the country and exploit its wealth. To counter the threat of European colonialism, I embarked on a program of modernization. I introduced new technologies, such as telegraphs and railways, to improve communication and transportation. I also established a modern army, equipped with the latest weapons and trained by European military experts. In 1889, I was crowned Emperor of Ethiopia. This marked a significant turning point in the history of the country. As emperor, I continued to work towards the unification and modernization of Ethiopia. I also sought to strengthen Ethiopia's international standing by establishing diplomatic relations with various European powers. One of my first priorities as emperor was to establish a strong and efficient government. I appointed capable officials to key positions and implemented reforms to improve the administration of justice and the collection of taxes. I also encouraged education and literacy, believing that an educated population was essential for the country's progress. I also focused on economic development. I encouraged trade and commerce, and I supported the development of agriculture and industry. I invested in infrastructure projects, such as roads and bridges, to improve connectivity and facilitate economic growth. I also worked to promote religious tolerance and unity. Ethiopia is a diverse country with a rich cultural heritage. I recognize the importance of respecting the different cultures, languages, and religions of the Ethiopian people. I encouraged interfaith dialogue and promoted the idea of a united Ethiopia, where people of all faiths could live in peace and harmony. One of the most important challenges I faced was the issue of slavery. Slavery had been a part of Ethiopian society for centuries, and it was a major social and economic problem. I took steps to abolish slavery, and I worked to rehabilitate former slaves and integrate them into society. I also sought to improve the status of women in Ethiopian society. I encouraged girls' education and supported women's rights. I believed that empowering women was essential for the progress of the nation. My reign as Emperor of Ethiopia was a period of significant transformation. I worked tirelessly to unite the country, modernize the economy, and improve the lives of my people. I am proud of the legacy I have left behind, and I hope that future generations will continue to build on the foundation I laid. Chapter 5. The Battle of Adwa. As Emperor of Ethiopia, I was determined to defend my country's sovereignty and resist foreign domination. The growing threat of Italian colonialism posed a serious challenge to our independence. The Italians, emboldened by their colonial successes in other parts of Africa, had their eyes set on Ethiopia. In 1895, the Italian army invaded Ethiopia. They underestimated the strength and determination of the Ethiopian people. The Italian forces, equipped with modern weapons and trained by European military experts, were confident of a swift victory. However, they were met with fierce resistance from the Ethiopian army. The Ethiopian army, led by skilled commanders such as Ras Alila Aba Niga and Fitareri Gaber Mariam, fought bravely against the Italian invaders. The Ethiopian soldiers, armed with traditional weapons and inspired by patriotism, fought with courage and determination. One of the key factors in the Ethiopian victory was the strong leadership of the emperor. I rallied the nation, inspiring the people to defend their homeland. I also provided strategic guidance to the military commanders, ensuring that the Ethiopian forces were well prepared to face the Italian threat. The Battle of Adwa, which took place on March 1st, 1896, was a decisive moment in the history of Africa. The Ethiopian army, outnumbered and outgunned, inflicted a crushing defeat on the Italian forces. The Italian soldiers were surprised by the ferocity of the Ethiopian attack and the skill of their commanders. The Ethiopian victory at Adwa had a profound impact on the global stage. It demonstrated that African nations could resist European colonialism and defend their independence. The battle inspired other African nations to fight for their freedom and sovereignty. The Battle of Adwa was a testament to the courage, resilience, and determination of the Ethiopian people. It was a victory for justice, freedom, and human dignity. The legacy of Adwa continues to inspire generations of Ethiopians to strive for a better future. Chapter 6. A Modernizing Emperor. After the resounding victory at the Battle of Adwa, I turned my attention to the task of modernizing Ethiopia. I recognized that the country needed to embrace progress and innovation to compete with the industrialized nations of Europe. One of my first priorities was to improve education. I established schools across the country, providing opportunities for young Ethiopians to acquire knowledge and skills. I also invited foreign educators to teach in our schools, bringing in new ideas and teaching methods. I also invested heavily in infrastructure development. I built roads, bridges, and railways to connect different parts of the country. These infrastructure projects facilitated trade, commerce, and transportation, stimulating economic growth. To modernize the economy, I encouraged the development of industries such as textiles, agriculture, and mining. I also promoted foreign investment, inviting foreign companies to set up businesses in Ethiopia. I also sought to strengthen Ethiopia's international relations. I established diplomatic ties with various countries around the world, seeking to promote trade and cooperation. I also participated in international conferences and summits, advocating for Ethiopia's interests on the global stage. I was particularly interested in public health. I established hospitals and clinics, and I encouraged the use of modern medicine. I also launched campaigns to eradicate diseases such as malaria and smallpox. I also recognized the importance of environmental conservation. I implemented policies to protect forests, wildlife, and water resources. I also encouraged sustainable agricultural practices to ensure the long-term health of the land. While I was committed to modernization, I was also mindful of preserving Ethiopia's rich cultural heritage. I supported traditional arts and crafts, and I encouraged the study of Ethiopian history and language. I also promoted the use of Amharic, the national language, in education and government. My vision for Ethiopia was to create a modern, prosperous, and independent nation. I believe that through education, infrastructure development, and economic growth, Ethiopia could take its rightful place among the nations of the world. Chapter 7. My Family. My family life has been a complex tapestry, interwoven with the demands of rulership. I have been married 3 times, each union shaping my life in unique ways. My first wife was Altash, a daughter of Emperor Tewodros II. Our marriage was a political alliance, arranged to strengthen my position. However, the marriage was short-lived and unhappy. We had no children together. My second wife was Bafina Wolde Michael. She was a woman of strong personality and ambition. However, our marriage was troubled, and we eventually divorced. My third wife, Tata Batul, was a remarkable woman who played a significant role in the history of Ethiopia. She was intelligent, courageous, and deeply committed to the progress of our nation. We shared a strong bond, and she was a constant source of support and guidance. Together, we had several children, including a son, Abedo Asawasan Menelik, who was born in 1873. Sadly, he passed away at a young age, unwed and childless. Our daughter, Princess Zudatu, was a strong and independent woman. She was well-educated and had a keen interest in politics and social issues. She was a strong advocate for women's rights and education. When I became incapacitated, she served as regent of Ethiopia, demonstrating her leadership abilities. My family has been an integral part of my life and my reign. They have provided me with love, support, and guidance. Together, we have faced countless challenges and achieved great triumphs. I am grateful for their unwavering loyalty and dedication. The loss of my son, Abedo Asfawasan Menelik, was a great tragedy. He was a bright and promising young man, and I had high hopes for his future. His untimely death was a significant loss for our family and the nation. Despite the challenges and setbacks, my family has remained a source of strength and inspiration. They have stood by me through thick and thin, and I am eternally grateful for their love and support. Chapter 8: A Legacy of Unity. I am proud of what I have accomplished during my reign. I have united Ethiopia, modernized the country, and defended our independence. I have also worked to promote peace and understanding among the diverse peoples of Ethiopia. One of my greatest achievements has been the unification of the various Ethiopian kingdoms. Before my reign, Ethiopia was a fragmented nation with numerous small kingdoms vying for power. I worked tirelessly to bring these kingdoms together under a single banner. I used diplomacy, military force, and political maneuvering to achieve this goal. I also sought to modernize Ethiopia and bring it into the 20th century. I invested heavily in infrastructure, such as roads, railways, and telecommunications. I also promoted education and literacy, believing that an educated population was essential for the country's progress. I encouraged the development of new industries, such as textiles, agriculture, and mining. I also sought to diversify the economy and reduce our reliance on traditional exports like coffee. To defend Ethiopia's sovereignty, I built a strong and modern military. I trained my soldiers in the latest military tactics and equipped them with modern weapons. I also established diplomatic relations with various countries, seeking to strengthen Ethiopia's international position. One of the most significant challenges I faced was the threat of European colonialism. The European powers were eager to colonize Africa, and Ethiopia was a tempting target. However, I was determined to resist foreign domination. I mobilized the Ethiopian people and led them to victory in the Battle of Adwa, a decisive battle that demonstrated the strength and resilience of the Ethiopian people. I also worked to promote peace and understanding among the diverse peoples of Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a multi-ethnic and multi-religious nation, and I recognize the importance of unity and tolerance. I encouraged dialogue and cooperation between different groups, and I sought to address the grievances of marginalized communities. I also worked to improve the lives of the Ethiopian people. I introduced reforms of the legal system, and I worked to reduce corruption and improve governance. I also invested in public health and education, seeking to improve the well-being of all Ethiopians. As I look back on my reign, I am proud of the progress that Ethiopia has made. We have overcome many challenges and emerged as a strong and independent nation. I hope that future generations will continue to build on the foundation that I have laid. I believe that Ethiopia has a bright future. With hard work, dedication, and unity, we can achieve our full potential and become a prosperous nation. Chapter 9: A Vision for the Future. As I near the end of my earthly journey, I look to the future with hope and optimism. I envision an Ethiopia that is strong, prosperous, and united, a nation that is respected and admired by the world. To achieve this vision, we must continue to invest in education. Education is the key to unlocking the potential of our people. By providing quality education to all, we can create a skilled workforce and a knowledge-based economy. We must also prioritize healthcare. A healthy population is a productive population. We must invest in healthcare infrastructure, train more healthcare professionals, and provide affordable healthcare to all. Infrastructure development is also crucial. We must invest in roads, railways, and other transportation infrastructure to connect our country and facilitate trade. We must also invest in energy infrastructure to power our industries and homes. To ensure sustainable development, we must protect our environment. We must conserve our natural resources and promote sustainable practices. We must also address climate change and its impact on our country. We must also strengthen our democratic institutions. A strong and vibrant democracy is essential for a prosperous and stable nation. We must uphold the rule of law, protect human rights, and promote good governance. As we look to the future, we must also remember the importance of unity. Ethiopia is a diverse nation, but we are all Ethiopians. We must celebrate our diversity and work together to build a strong and prosperous nation. I urge future generations to carry on the legacy of our ancestors. Let us strive to build a just, equitable, and prosperous Ethiopia. Let us work together to create a better future for ourselves and for generations to come. Chapter 10, A Final Farewell. As I near the end of my earthly journey, I reflect on the life I have lived. I have witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the birth of nations, and the evolution of humanity. I have experienced both the joys and sorrows of life, the triumphs and the defeats. I have lived a long and eventful life, filled with both challenges and triumphs. I have seen Ethiopia transform from a fragmented kingdom into a united and modern nation. I have led my people to victory over foreign invaders and have worked tirelessly to improve the lives of my subjects. I have always strived to be a just and compassionate ruler. I have sought to balance the needs of the present with the hopes of the future. I have learned from my mistakes and have grown stronger with each experience. I am particularly proud of my efforts to unite the diverse peoples of Ethiopia. I have worked to bridge the gap between different ethnic groups and religions. I have encouraged tolerance and understanding, and I have sought to create a sense of national identity. I have also been a strong advocate for education and modernization. I have invested heavily in schools and universities, and I have encouraged the adoption of new technologies. I believe that education is the key to progress and prosperity. As I prepare to leave this world, I urge my people to remain united and to work together for the betterment of our nation. We must continue to build on the foundation that I have laid. We must strive for peace, justice, and prosperity for all. I am confident that Ethiopia has a bright future. With hard work, dedication, and perseverance, we can overcome any challenge and achieve our dreams. Let us always remember the sacrifices of our ancestors and the sacrifices we make today to build a better tomorrow. I bid farewell to you all with a heavy heart, but also with hope and optimism. May the blessings of the Almighty be upon you all.